Hello guys, welcome to the third episode of this playlist where we are talking about writing tests for React applications. In this episode, I'm going to show you an example of an integration test. So we are basically going to integrate our, app.tsx component with a new component that we're going to create for adding a new employee. So we are going to create a new component called employee form.tsx. This is a very simple, component provided you are familiar with React. I'm not going to talk a lot about this, but basically we are creating a prop. The prop is taking in like a function called onAdd, and then we are using onAdd here to add a new employee, right? And then here, by the way, here we are creating some states for the name of the employee, the role of the employee, the department, and then inside of the template, what we are doing is we are creating different inputs, as you can see here, and we're going to bind them to those states, right? The three states. And then we have this button, submit. And then when the form is submitted, we're going to handle the submit using this function, right? This is the handle submit, which of course is gonna do whatever is needed to do to add that new employee, right? The new employee on add new employee, and the new employee is gonna get created here, right? We're gonna create a new object of the type. We are going to set up the different values for the properties using, of course, these states that we have here, like name, role, department. And when we add that employee using the function that we get through the component, we're gonna, reset the states. So this is the overall behavior of the form component, employee form component. We're gonna create employee form inside of our project. The next step is to integrate the form and the list with our app.tsx. So if you remember, if you take a look here in app.tsx, right now we only have employee list here. But right now we want not only the employee list, but also the employee form. So we want to be able to add employees as well. We have that, array. We are creating, as you can see, a state for the array. And then we have this function called handle add, which is going to take in an employee and, add that employee to that array, to the state. And we're going to use this handle add as the function passed to the employee form component on add. And then we are going to write the first test for app.ts.tsx, which is kind of integrating the components. More than one component, right? So we are not only using the, employee form component, but we are also going to see if whenever, we add that employee through the inputs, we're going to see whether that employee appears in the list that is rendered using the employee list component or not. As I told you, the first step is to create that employee form component. I'm going to put it here. I'm going to create a new file, employee form.tsx, and then I'm going to write the code. So basically, as I showed you, is going to be a very simple, component that allows us to pass in a prop called onAdd with one function called onAdd to, add a new employee, right, to our data. A new employee has name, role, department. We're going to create states for those. We're going to have a function called handle submit that is going to check the value inside those three states. Then it's going to create a new object of that type. It's going to set the name, role, department, and ID, and then it's going to call onAdd, the function that we received in the props with that new object. Then it's going to reset the state. And in the template, what we are going to do is to bind those three inputs to those three states, name, role, and department. And then we're going to have a button of type submit. And when we submit the form, we're going to handle the form submission using the handle submit button. handle submit, function. So this is the employee form. The next step is to integrate this employee form with what we have here inside of app.tsx. So I'm going to remove this, and then we're going to write the code for the new version of this, app.tsx. So again, basically, we want to use the employee list and employee form. We're importing these two components. We're importing the type. And then we are going to create an array of employees as a state. The state type is an array of employee. And then we are going to create the function handle add that allows us to create, to add new employees. And then we are going to render those two components, employee form and employee list. And the next step for us, of course, is to create that integration test. So for the integration test, inside of the SRC, I have this folder called tests, right? And I am going to create a file here. I'm going to call it app.test.tsx. And then I am going to write the code for this test. So basically, it's going to, again, take advantage of render screen fire event. Fire event is used when you want to, interact with the, for example, inputs that your component renders. First, we're going to create the expect function to kind of make sure that we have this ls rendered by the component, basically with the, using the employee list component. And then we're going to create a new employee called Charlie, whose role is manager, works in sales department. We're going to click the add employee, and then we expect that we see that employee inside of the component. So take a look at this one. First off, we are expecting that we see this developer rendered by the application. I mean, if you take a look here, this is the first, developer that is already inside of our state. And it is going to be rendered using employee list because we are passing this state as props to this employee list. So this is the first, expect that we have here. Then through fire event that we are importing from testing library React, we are, interacting with different elements on the page using that screen, type that I told you about, screen dependency. Get by placeholder text. We have set some placeholder text on the employee form. If you take a look here, we have placeholder for these three inputs, right? So we are querying these three inputs using get by placeholder. And then as you can see here, we are setting the value of these inputs. So we are setting the, text for the name, the role, and the department. And then we're going to click the add employee button on our component. If you take a look at add employee form, this is the button that we're going to click, add employee. So again, we are querying this using get by text and get by placeholder text. Get by placeholder text is used here for interacting with inputs. Get by text is used for interacting with the button. And then when we click that, what we expect is that this new employee is going to be added to this, let's say this state that we have here, right? And this state, again, is going to be passed to the employee list component using these props. And this employee list is going to render the new employee. And the new employee is going to be rendered using this format, employee name dash employee role, employee department inside of parentheses. If you take a look at the test, you see that we expect to see Alice dash role in parentheses department, and the same thing for Bob. This is actually what I'm talking about, this one. So Charlie, manager, and sales, right? And of course, as before, we can run the test npx vtest run. npx vtest run. Right now we have 2 test files and 3 tests, and all of them passed, right? So this is the way to implement an integration test. So a test that basically integrates 2 components. In this case, employee form and employee list. And that's it. Thank you so much, guys, for watching this video till the very end. I hope you've enjoyed it. If that's the case, as always, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you in the next episode.